I hate when people underestimate my fastness. I'm fast. I'm so fast, you couldn't even comprehend how fast I am.
God damn it!
I am Razio.
All right, for those of you who are ARPG fans and don't know who David Brevik is, well, I mean, where the hell have you been? But I'll fill you in anyway because I'm a good guy like that. And if you do already know, then you'll just get a quick review here. David Brevik was the founder of Blizzard North and was president of it for 10 years. Now, for those of you who don't know, Blizzard North was the sub-studio of Blizzard Entertainment and in many ways was the main factor that produced the most success for the company as a whole. I mean, he was the man that was behind Diablo 1, you know, the ARPG that started the whole genre, and Diablo 2, which to this day is still considered a masterpiece and the best ARPG of all time. He also had some heavy influence in Warcraft 3, and he was also the primary target of this piece of shit, who attacked him over social media when Brevik simply made the statement that if he had been in charge of the development of Diablo 3, that he would have just gone in a different direction. He didn't say it was bad, which it was, and he didn't say Diablo 2 was better, which it absolutely is. And it garnered this response. Anyway, Brevik recently did an interview with the site Video Gamer where he had some very interesting things to say about the ARPG genre as a whole. And in my opinion, when the father of the ARPG genre speaks, it would probably be wise to listen. Now, if you've been watching my content for a while, you'll know that while I do have some ARPG videos in my repertoire, the majority of my content is centered around MMORPGs. However, this interview struck me deeply as I believe that the MMO genre is suffering from a lot of the same problems. Here is the first part of what Brevik had to say in regards to the pacing that we see in ARPGs. I think that RPGs in general have started to lean into this. Kill swaths of enemies all over the place extremely quickly. Your build is killing all sorts of stuff, so you could get more drops, you can level up, and the screen is littered with stuff you don't care about. End quote. Now, if we take a step back and look at ARPGs and even MMORPGs from the more modern age, such as Path of Exile 2, PoE 1 to some degree, Diablo 3, Diablo 4, and MMOs such as Retail WoW, Guild Wars 2, ESO, etc., we're able to see that this is an insanely accurate assessment. And while I think building your character to get increasingly stronger over time is a necessary part of any real RPG, the pacing and the rewards seem to be extremely off and in many cases inflated. Take a look at games like Diablo 3, 4, and Path of Exile 2's loot systems, which are arguably the most important system in any ARPG, where loot constantly rains from the sky and clutters your screen, but 99% of everything is absolute dog shit. The loot in these games is mostly useless, and while true that loot filters help, the games have little to no systems in them to craft or upgrade gear to be more useful. I'd even argue that the fact that a loot filter is necessary in these games to begin with is a clear symptom of this problem we're talking about being absolutely true. Virtually nothing that drops is worth clicking on, let alone looking at, and everything is bogged down by more levels of RNG than a Vegas slot machine.
What can I do with $5?
Gee, I don't know. Buy a bullet and rent a gun?
And then we move on to the next point, in regards to the combat in these games, which he elaborates further on. I just don't find killing screenfuls of things instantly and mowing stuff down and walking around the level and killing everything very enticing. When you're shortening that journey and making it kind of ridiculous, you've cheapened the entire experience, in my opinion. I just don't feel like it's a cool experience, and I find it kind of silly. The pacing on Diablo 2, I think, is great. End quote. Now, don't get me wrong. Eventually getting to a spot where you can blow everything up on the screen can be a lot of fun. It quickly loses its appeal, though, when it's mostly the case from the start to finish, and getting to that point takes very little time and or effort. Now, I agree with Brevik here, as I feel it cheapens your experience. I mean, take a look at Diablo 1. The entire game stays the same pace for the most part, even as you get stronger. Things improve dramatically with Diablo 2, where it starts extremely slow, but depending on RNG, crafting, and your knowledge of the game, by the time you reach the later stages in Hell difficulty, i.e. the end of the game, and have put together a good build, assembled decent gear, the pace increases dramatically, while simultaneously not removing all the danger in the game. Contrast this pacing and loot with what we see now in games like Diablo 3, 4, and Path of Exile 2, where the game starts out at Mach 9 and increases to 12 by the end of the game, as the useless garbage loot just fills your fucking screen with shit you don't care about. I also want to point out that with the ladder/seasonal systems in these games that have reduced the leveling process from 1 to the cap into a mindless, zero skill requiring race, that you win in mainly 5 hours or less. The bulk of the main part of the RPG has been removed, and this is where we get some serious crossover, as I was previously talking about, into the MMORPG genre. Leveling has become a means to an end, and the end is all anyone really cares about, including the developers who made the game. Everything shifted from the journey and adventure of experiencing the world and the story and the characters into blasting through everything and ignoring as much as possible and doing it as quickly as possible to get to where the, and I quote, real game, end quote, is. I agree with Brevik once again here, and it is indeed not cool to do this, and it cheapens the entire experience, and it just sucks. I'd also like to add that I feel a major contributor to how we got here is every game being a damn always online service. I did a video about this earlier, and you can find the video in the description. Let me put it this way. Dopamine hits and fun are not the same thing. And I think we as players and developers as a whole have forgotten that. Or I should probably say the developers know it, but they've just exploited it. All in the name of rushing to the end and spending swaths of cash on microtransactions and other such dopamine hits is kind of what things have become as a whole. What used to be the excitement and immersion of a game and feeling the reward of the pacing behind getting stronger is now just attaching a microtransaction price tag to smaller yet far more common dopamine hits just to keep you playing. I think Brevik hit the nail on the head in regards to this in his final statement in his interview. He said this, and I quote, "The fun actually isn't getting to the end. It's the journey. When you're shortening that journey and making it kind of ridiculous, you've cheapened the entire experience, in my opinion." I couldn't agree more with this. I've done videos in the past about this too, and companies focusing on the end game and players, over time having been brainwashed to accept this mindset and the current state of the industry as the norm. And it's completely cheapened and in some cases completely ruined both genres and, in my opinion, gaming as a whole. RPGs of all types, more than any other genre of game, traditionally were about immersion, story, interactions with other players if the game was online, and the game systems themselves and how you interact with them. The journey. This focus has shifted to the end, and ignoring and skipping the journey as a whole, and especially when we get to the seasonal model, has become a race more than anything else, and the race is getting faster and shorter by the season. Unfortunately, the only way I can see this changing back to being a focus on the journey instead of this gotta go fast bullshit is when one of two things happen. Either the gamers vote with their wallets and simply stop buying and playing endgame focused modern games so they're no longer profitable, or the new studios that pop up have the old school vision as their primary focus. There are a few out there, but it's rare, and unfortunately I believe most of the developers such as Brevik that have this mindset are members of a past and long gone generation that are mostly retired from the industry. With the advent of social media, I want to add, we've repeatedly seen that most people these days, especially younger people, have the attention span of a THC-infused goldfish, and their default setting is requiring dopamine hit overloads 24/7. If a game isn't assaulting their brain reward system at all times, they lose interest and go on to the next gotcha gambling simulator to waste their lives on. And even some of the older people that are complete retards fall into this trap. Not to wax too philosophical here, but fuck it. I'm gonna go here anyway. I want to say that focusing on the destination instead of the path is a problem that isn't new. And I'm not talking about gaming completely here. It's a human flaw that has existed since the dawn of time. I mean, take a look at your own lives. We can't wait to be 16 so we can drive, 21 so we can drink, 25 so we can rent a car. 65, I guess, is when Social Security shows up if you're stateside. It's kind of grim. We look forward to when we will have, you know, X job or X relationship, or when we're married, or when we have money, or where we live in this spot or this big a house. You get my drift. We become so focused on certain future points that we miss what we have right in front of us. And one of the most significant and beautiful, yet also saddest part of what we refer to as the human condition and the good old days of our lives is that we didn't realize that we were in them until they were gone. If we had known, how much more would we have cherished these moments and this period of time, especially in our youth? Can we retrain ourselves to appreciate the current moment instead of always focusing on tomorrow? Or, as in gamers' terms, focusing on the end game? Or are we doomed to just keep this charade going forward until we are eventually in the ground? So now I ask you, dear viewer, what are your thoughts on this matter? Do you agree with Brevik's statements? Why or why not? Would a game that returned to the old formula of, in either genre, be successful in today's dogshit pile of the gaming industry? I'm not so sure. I, for one, look forward to games like that, but I want your thoughts below. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts and feelings on the statements made by David Brevik in his interview. Remember yours down below. Guys, thanks so much for all the support I've had over the last few weeks, months. It's been really encouraging. If you like my video, please share and like it. If you don't, thumbs down, and, you know, just don't ever come back here. That's fine. I don't care. In fact, you could, you know, join the legions of Yoshi P fans from most of my 14 videos and tell me to kill myself. That'd be fine, too. Doesn't really bother me. But anyway, guys, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, with other days added in as I feel, you know, see fit on Twitch and on YouTube simultaneously. Pick your poison if you want to come watch. And I really appreciate it again, guys. Take care of yourselves. Be safe out there. And as always, my friends, keep it real.